Hello, everyone. Yesterday, we experienced a partial solar eclipse, and today is the fall equinox. These are important astronomical and astrological events, and astrologers of the past and of the present use the charts of those events to make predictions for the season and even for a couple of years ahead. But in this video, I would like to focus on the eclipse. It occurred yesterday in 29 degrees of Virgo, and not only I want to share with you a little bit about what it foretells for us, but to introduce you to the process, how an astrologer like myself can be looking at the solar chart, the chart of the solar eclipse, and working with it. So let's start with a little bit of astronomy. Because eclipses are really visible phenomena, they naturally were attracting attention of people and astrologers from the ancient times. And they were seen as important omens. Oftentimes, people were afraid of them because it was visible that the sun or the moon's light is being cut. And always they were considered important in predictions of the fate of the countries, the rulers, the cities, and so-called mundane astrology, astrology of the countries. But the general approach was that an eclipse of the sun is like a forebearer of important event, great event. So Mashallah, for example, was saying that no, that an eclipse of the sun, it cannot come to be, but that some great event would be signified according to the size of the eclipse. Yesterday, eclipse was partial. It means that the sun wasn't entirely covered, which is a less intense eclipse than a full solar eclipse. Nevertheless, it lasted between 2 to 3 hours, and the amount of hours it lasts shows approximately how many years it will be impacting us. So 2-3 hours equals about 2-3 years. Another thing that ancients were saying, that eclipse felt more strongly where it is visible. And I actually went outside yesterday looking for it because it occurred during the day, but I couldn't see anything. And the reason is not everywhere on Earth the eclipse was visible. It was visible in this lower part of this diagram over here in the parts of Australia and parts of the Pacific, but it wasn't visible in the North America or in Europe. So that's less impactful for those places, but still eclipse is an important and impactful event for the whole world, like symbolically and so on. And so the ancients advised us, if we want to look at what themes signifies, what events it signifies for the country, the ancients advised to cast a chart for the eclipse for the capital of that country. So let me show you the chart for Washington, D.C. And in approaching this chart, they advised to follow the following steps. First, let's look in which sign and in which house the eclipse falls. We already said that it falls in Virgo. More so, it falls in the late degree of Virgo, which is a critical degree, which is considered a degree associated with endings and new beginnings. It suggests that an important change is about to take place. This change will relate to the house that it falls in, and it falls in the 8th house, which is associated with the finances, money, especially money of others, and in application to the country, this may relate to the system of loans and so on. So some important changes, some ending and new beginnings will happen in that sector, and they will be somewhat challenging and difficult. We'll get to that just in a moment, but I want to build those themes based on the way that ancient astrologers advise. So second part, we want to look at where is the ruler of the solar eclipse, and the ruler of the solar eclipse in Virgo is Mercury. We find Mercury next to those planets. So Mercury has a kind of final say in how the eclipse would manifest, and Mercury rules communication, trade, commerce, postal office exchanges between us. Because Mercury is in the 8th house, we can expect some disruptions, some changes and difficulties relating to the finances, maybe to the currencies, such as, for example, dollar dropping or even Bitcoin dropping or fluctuating, because it's the 8th house matter. We can expect changes regarding the interest on the loans and things like that. But more broadly, it signifies disruption or difficulties in communications and maybe some new ideas that come about regarding the finances, which are abstracted or not yet fully matured. The one thing that comes to mind is the student loans in the United States, because they're going for a difficult period of changes right now. But the ancients say once you analyze like that, we can look also at the ascendant of the eclipse chart. And we find Capricorn here on the ascendant for the United States, which again re-amplifies the theme of securities, financial securities, some goals that are related to security and financial substance. In other words, in simple terms, I think the United States will have certain financial crises to deal with. Of course, national debt is huge, and others. And another difficult part here is that Saturn and Neptune are opposing the eclipse, which is a difficult configuration, again, emphasizing shortage of money and even possibly for some people, shortage of resources. Earth signs also suggest that crops or the trees can be affected. And final thing is the Saturn, ruler of the eclipse, is in the second house with Neptune. So again, it reiterates the themes of financial frugality, reversals of various financial agreements and financial deals, that generally the country has to be frugal. And Saturn, Neptune also suggest that we have to face the realities as they are, but we might be clouded, we might not see everything. And another manifestation of this eclipse is dealing with lies and truths, meaning we might uncover things which are truthful and they disappoint us, or perhaps we are forced to look at the truths and face the reality as it is. And so, having Saturn ruling the ascendant of the eclipse suggests challenging times, challenging months. However, not everything is so difficult and grim. There is a saving grace. We find that Jupiter is very strong in the seventh house and does sextile eclipse, and it trines Saturn and Neptune. So the ancients say that when benefics assist, they mitigate the difficulties. There will be some trades and some negotiations, the seventh house, which might be beneficial for the people and which mitigate those financial challenges. And in a more broader spiritual sense, Jupiter suggests we need to look for the truth within. We need to find more unity and more peace and wisdom together. But I will talk about this a little bit more later. Of course, if you're looking at your own natal chart, it would matter where the eclipse falls. Some people may be less affected by it, but if it falls into your ascendant, the sun, the moon, you will feel it stronger in the areas where these planets are. So let's look at the spiritual meaning of the eclipse. I think that Jupiter in Cancer suggests our direction is in finding faith and in finding truth in spiritual resources, whether that's religion, whether that's spirituality, whether that's nature, whether that's connection with the loved ones. But basically, we need to find the truth with the capital T. And I also looked at the degree of the eclipse, and I looked at the so-called Sabian symbol. The Sabian symbol is a more modern astrological approach where each degree has a particular symbol associated with it. So for the 29 degrees, symbol is of a man gaining secret knowledge from an ancient scroll he's reading. So that re-amplifies that the meaning of this eclipse in a more spiritual way is to discover deeper truths. So we are called to look within, to look to the ancient sources, whether that's religion or spirituality or some other, even astrology. We are called to look for what is truthful, because in today's modern age, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of distorted truths floating around. So we are called to look for the truth in the sources which are trustworthy and even within ourselves. These are the things that I wanted to share with you about eclipse. Let me know in the comments if you feel the influence of it. How does it affect you, if at all? And please hit the subscribe button. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you, and see you soon.